Hi everyone, it's James here. Welcome back to the channel and another vinyl finds video. Been quite a while since my last one. So I've got a few things to show you from a variety of different places. The first two records are from Wrexham, my hometown. And the first one actually comes from quite a new record shop that's only been in the town for, I don't know how long actually, maybe a year or two. Revived Records. It's a kind of record shop and a merchandise shop really. A little bit overpriced, I think. They've got a good variety of stock, but they are a little bit pricey. Now the first one, I've got Nick to thank for this from the channel Nick's Vinyl Butty. I mentioned to him that I'd left this record behind on a previous visit and he was suitably outraged, so I took the hint. Next time I went back, I went through the racks, found it again, and I thought actually it's not a bad price, I'll get it. There were two records by Gary Newman there. The other one wasn't in great condition, but I did end up picking this one up on my return visit. This is his album I Assassin, which I think was his fourth solo album. Came from 1982. Really good record actually. I'm getting really into Gary Newman. I've been watching quite a few interviews with him and clips of him online. Really interesting guy, you know, really interesting artist, with a lot to say for himself actually. Quite an intelligent bloke with a very interesting history. I must do a profile on him at some point. There's the great man there, wearing a bit of a trilby. This one will be, presumably this one will be on Beggar's Banquet as usual. That was Gary's label, of course, and has a very nice custom label. So it's pretty much what you'd expect from Gary Newman from this period. I didn't recognise any of the songs, but they all have that very distinctive cold electronic sound. Got quite a few records by him now. The last one I picked up was from Manchester a couple of years ago. That was Telecon, and I really like that record. This one is kind of more of the same really. I need to get to know it a little bit more, obviously, because I've not had it for very long. But anyway, thanks Nick for prompting me to go back and get that. I'm pleased that I did. And then I headed up to Moonlight Records in Wrexham, which is my usual stomping ground. Anyway, I picked this up when I went there last time. This is probably about 2 weeks ago now, actually. This is Alice Cooper and $1 Billion Babies. And this is really strange because I was convinced I had this record. I'd seen it in the shop on a previous time. Didn't pick it up because I thought I had it. I was convinced I had it. Went home, looked on the shelves, didn't have it on record, didn't have it on CD. So either I've had it in the past and lost it, or I just imagined that I had it. I don't know. Anyway, I bought it. It was not expensive. I think it was a tenner. The sleeve is not in wonderful condition, but the record is pretty good, and it sounds okay. Not perfect, but it sounds all right. Alice Cooper is another artist that I've been getting more and more into in recent years. I think this is his 6th album. It's another one of the Bob Ezrin ones, and it's got some pretty wild stuff on it actually. Some quite heavy, you know, it's Alice Cooper. There's one track, I think it's the title track, that has a guest vocal appearance by Donovan, of all people. I wasn't quite expecting that. When the voice rang out at me, I thought, well, that's not Alice Cooper, who's that? Turns out that it was Donovan. Not quite sure how that collaboration came to be. Anyway, I wasn't sure if this record was meant to have a sort of a dollar note in it, isn't it? A $1 billion note. It seems to be in there, but it's kind of stuck inside the sleeve. I'm not sure if that is what is meant to be happening, or whether that's meant to be a loose thing that comes out and someone's glued it in. I'm not entirely sure. Maybe somebody could help me out with that. But anyway, it was a good purchase. I'm pleased I got it, and now I actually do have it rather than just imagining that I have, which is, that's always a bonus, isn't it? So that was Wrexham. Now I'm dotting around in time because usually what happens is I buy records and I spend ages before I make the video, and then I've completely forgotten the order in which I bought them. The next few are all from Heightside Records here in Lancaster, the market traders who come over from West Yorkshire. But they were probably bought quite a while before those last two, but what the hell, who cares? So this first one, this is an interesting record. I'm hoping the focus is all right. It looks a bit blurry to me on the screen. The light's not very good in here. Hopefully you can see this okay. This was a nice little find, actually. This is Kevin Ayres and the Confessions of Dr. Dream and Other Stories, with a really interesting cover. These faces here, they're slightly raised. They've got a kind of texture to them. Kevin Ayres, obviously one of the Canterbury kind of art rock, prog rock people from back in the day. Soft Machine originally. This one's on the beautiful Pink Rim Island label. The only Kevin Ayres I had already, I've got a twofer of his famous albums, Joy of a Toy and is it Shooting at the Moon? I've got those on a twofer, really like them. I've always liked his style, his kind of plummy delivery. I find it very endearing. This album is quite, it's quite trippy. There are some songs on it that have a kind of real trippy vibe. There's an interesting lineup of people on here. Mike Oldfield turns up, I think, on guitar. There's I think it's an ARP synthesizer turns up on side 2. The ARP synth, played by Robert Hine. Really interesting textures. Sort of reminds me a little bit of Steve Hillage. A very interesting melange of sounds. It's kind of orchestral sounds on here, but mixed in with electronics. It's quite trippy. And the first song on side 1, Day by Day, it's actually quite funky. It's got a funky clavinet played by Robert Hine again. Not really the kind of sound that you expect to hear from Kevin Ayres, who's usually quite sort of English sounding. Also on here you've got Doris Troy on backing vocals, so that gives you a clue as to, you know, the fact that it's a bit more soulful, a bit more funky. On side 1 anyway. A bit bluesy in places too, but then on side 2, as I said, it goes off into more trippy psychedelic territory. Really interesting record. I'm really pleased to have found that. A very unexpected find, because you don't see Kevin Ayres albums in the wild very often, or I don't anyway. A couple of quirky finds now from Heightside. This one I was really pleased to find because I don't think I've ever seen their records about. This is Half Man, Half Biscuit, and the album back in the DSS. Back in the DHSS again. So Half Man, Half Biscuit, I think they're still around, are a kind of satirical, I'm not sure how you describe them, a kind of post-punk but humorous, satirical, humorous, quirky, oddball, very much a John Peel band. He absolutely loved them. Back in the day. They weren't his favourite band, that was The Fall and the Undertones obviously, but I don't think Half Man Half Biscuit were too far behind. Their first album was called Back in the DHSS, and then for some reason they broke up, and then they got back together. I think this record came out after the split, and it was essentially a collection of John Peel sessions and maybe a couple of B-sides as well. Some really interesting things on this album, really quirky, sort of strange, humorous, quite sort of working class, quite satirical, but you can see from the song titles, Reasons to be Miserable, Part 10, Rod Hull is Alive, Why? And the classic hit, I think it was a big hit actually in '86, Dickie Davis's Eyes. That was, I think it was, it might have been #1 in the indie charts. It was actually quite a big song. Trumped in Riots, of course, which is another of their famous songs. You've got to sort of hear it to understand what they're like, really. It's very, it's just very knockabout, very, it's quite sort of noisy, very 80s, very indie 80s. It's got that kind of 80s sound all over it, you know, a little bit like The Fall. Quite sort of rackety, quite earthy, and just this very sort of laconic, humorous delivery. The guys in the band, Nigel Blackwell, I think he was the main songwriter and singer, Neil Crosley on bass. I think they were the two central members of the band. But yeah, anyway, just a really fun thing to find. It was really cheap. Wasn't expecting to find it, so that was great. And then staying on Heightside Records again, this is one I'm not sure about this. I bought it knowing that it had a reputation, or at least the band had a reputation, but I spun it a couple of times and I'm really not sure about it. This is Matching Mole, and I think it's just their debut album. This is one of Robert Wyatt's post-Soft Machine outfits. There's a couple of really interesting songs on here. Oh Caroline, the opening track, is really beautiful, but then it goes off into very strange, I suppose you'd call it prog rock really, but quite kind of jerky, quite bumpy. I'd describe it as bumpy. It's a bumpy record. It's kind of, it's not particularly an easy listen. I am a fan of Robert Wyatt. I really like his solo stuff. Maybe this will grow on me. Robert Wyatt, Phil Miller, David Sinclair, he was quite a big figure, wasn't he? Bill McCormick, and it's quite eclectic. It's quite interesting, but it didn't sort of blow me away. I was hoping it was going to be a real kind of, you know, rock bottom style, just amazing art rock, progressive rock album. But on first acquaintance, not too sure that's going to be a keeper or not. We'll have to see. But it was an interesting thing to find. You don't see their records about really that often, so I'm not complaining. Just realised I've gone wrong here. There's a record in the pile that I should have shown earlier because it was also from Wales, but I'll do it last. I'll bring things full circle. So also from Heightside Records, I am on the Frank Zappa Slippery Slope. I think I mentioned this in a previous video. I bought a copy of Hot Rats from Heightside, and I bought a couple of CDs as well. So this is Shake Your Booty, which is an album that I knew already. I streamed a lot of Zappa albums, maybe over the last two years or so. This is one that I listened to once on the way to work. I had a long car journey on the way to work and streamed nearly the whole thing, so I'd heard it before. It's a fun album, you know, it's Frank Zappa. It's a Frank Zappa vocal album, so it comes with all the usual kind of slightly sniggery schoolboy lyrics. I don't know, I'm always a little bit agnostic about his lyrical side. I really like his instrumental side, you know, the musical side, but the lyrics do sometimes get on my nerves. I wasn't sure if this was a joke here, this thing, including the hit single Bobby Brown. Was it a hit single? Because the lyrics are pretty close to the bone. But it's a fun album. It's an interesting listen. I'm just going to show you one of the inners. They're both the same lyric sheet. I'll try to remind myself now who actually plays on the album, because there's quite an interesting roll call of musicians. Is it going to tell me? Maybe not. Just on Orange CBS. Nothing particularly interesting now. Let's see who plays on here. All right, here we go. Adrian Belew, that was the artist I was going to mention on vocals. I suppose he's the really big kind of name on here in terms of, well, he was a bit of an American new wave star, wasn't he, I suppose. Terry Bozzio on drums, and I think he writes a couple of songs. Don't recognise too many of the other names, but I'm not really a big Frank Zappa aficionado, so maybe there are some other sort of Frank Zappa stalwarts on here, I'm not too sure, but anyway, those are the two names that I recognise. Anyway, I'm pleased I got it. It was only a tenner. And then the final one I'll show from Heightside, really pleased to find this, and this was a really good price as well, which you don't often see. This is Roy Harper, of course, and Stormcock. I've only got one other Roy Harper record, that being HQ. This is kind of meant to be one of his classic albums. It's a very strange album. It's a very ethereal record. Lots of it is just him on guitars and overdubbed vocals, quite sort of bare and Spartan, but then occasionally he brings in other instruments. David Bedford is the arranger on here, produced by Peter Jenner. There's the Floyd link there, of course. He was the original manager for Floyd, wasn't he? And this one has got quite a nice gatefold. It's on Harvest, of course. I think most of Roy's records were on Harvest at this time, weren't they? And the playing copy, it's not wonderful. There are some spits and pops occasionally on this. I probably will be looking for an upgrade at some point, but I was really pleased to find it, as I said, because you don't really tend to see them going cheap. I'd seen one at Moonlight Records actually in Wrexham a while before, but it was more like £35-40, which I just don't pay that kind of money for records, but I got that one for a tenner, so that was really nice to get. So there we go, Roy Harper and Stormcock. Good stuff. And then finally we'll loop back, because this is a record I should have shown at the beginning. This is one of the ones I bought from... Actually, no, it's not. I tell a lie. It's not one of the ones I bought from Revived in Wrexham. I did buy a record by this band from there, but not this one. This is Heightside Records, and this really made my weekend, actually. This is a record I've been looking for a long time. Blue Oyster Cult and Secret Treaties, which is their third album. So this completes the trilogy of their first three records, which are known as the Black and White trilogy, I think, because all three records have a black and white theme. This is one that I had on CD already, but I definitely wanted it on vinyl, and I've seen various copies of it around the place, all of them too expensive. This one was nice and cheap. Really, really good record, actually. It's got my favourite track by Blue Oyster Cult, which is Dominance and Submission, which has just got a really, really great riff. Absolutely brilliant. But then some other tracks on here. Career of Evil, the opening track, is great. Cagey Cretins, Harvester of Eyes, Astronomy at the end. Really good, really, really good stuff. Kind of undergroundy, American sort of rock music, really. Can't describe it any more than that. Production-wise, maybe not the best produced record. The sound on this copy anyway is a little bit muddy, a little bit compressed. Not sure if it's just maybe the copy. Seems to be a British pressing, might be an early British pressing, but the music is great, and this is a band that I really like. I've got a couple more records by them to show in a future video. So there we go, that'll do, 18 minutes. I shall try and hack some out of that, make it a bit more accessible. So thanks for watching. I will be back soon for another video. Take care and see you soon.